Good afternoon, and welcome to the 4th Annual Ideal Summit, Information Literacy Across the Lifespan. I'm going to start with a few words of welcome from the chair of the LIS department, Clara Chu.
Welcome, bienvenidos. What I wanted to do is just have you think about this wonderful opportunity for us to learn together. That's why we put together the Ideal Summit, and this is the 4th one. An opportunity for professionals, the faculty, community members, as well as students to come together and to talk about topics that we may not necessarily get a chance to talk about, but be inspired so then we can try to do something back wherever we are, whether we're studying or at the workplace. And so the focus this year is information literacy across the lifespan, and I'm very excited to participate and learn more from this topic because for the first time in a long time I'm teaching an undergraduate class, and I've been finding it challenging in terms of how is it that I communicate with them and have them look at information critically. So one of the things that I shared with them is a particular news website, and this news website some of you may know, BuzzFeed.com, and in it, apart from some of the categories that you may be familiar with, such as sports, they have the categories politics, tech, rewind, celeb, animals, and they also have the further categories of looking at information by clicking on LOL, win, OMG, cute, geeky, trashy, fail, WTF. So I just thought that, you know, there are different ways that we can categorize information, and we've been doing it by subject all the time in our field, but we need to think about different ways that now people are looking at information and might want to access it. So I want to just close by saying thank you to Sandra Andrews and Nora Bird for leading the organization and coming up with a theme and doing all the wonderful work and pulling together a team of individuals who volunteered throughout the process of this particular Ideal Summit, and I'll let them thank the individuals later. But I wanted to thank them for stepping up and finding a wonderful topic and really putting together a wonderful group of speakers as well as our keynote speaker. And then lastly, to thank is also Cora Paul Bomar Fund, which is the fund that is supporting a lot of the activities that we are going to be experiencing today. So welcome and enjoy the afternoon.
Thank you, Clara. When we started this conversation, Sandra and I had a title in mind, and somebody had stolen it. So we came up with information literacy across the lifespan. What we wanted to look at was transitions. We know that there are standards for school librarians to follow in terms of teaching information literacy. We know that ACRL has a group of standards that they apply to information literacy at the college level. We know that public libraries are now engaged in information literacy, and other organizations are concerned about imparting information literacy to their workers. And so we wanted to gather a group of librarians and have them have a conversation about what they do at these various stages with their particular clients or users. How do they teach information literacy skills? What do they mean by information literacy skills? So we're going to start with them telling you what in their individual situations they think of as information literacy. What are they trying to get across to the users that they're instructing? And so I have people arranged in a particular order here. You can see their bios in your program. This is Sarah Frazier, who is a school library media specialist. This is Stacy Wilson, who works in a community college. This is Jenny Dale, who works here at UNCG. This is Jennifer Balance, who works for Nov102012. Used to work in a community college, and works with helping people with information literacy. They probably don't call it that, we'll find out, in a particular health organization. And this is John Zika, who is working on a special project for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Public Library. So I'm going to let them talk for themselves, and then we'll have a conversation.
All right. As Nora said, I'm Sarah. This is very hard for me to stay seated because I'm used to teaching and monitoring students as I go, but I don't believe you need any monitoring right now. The standards that usually guide us the most, of course, reflect back to AASL standards. We also have our curriculum in North Carolina that is definitely information literacy. So when I talk to students, the 4 things we look at most of the time, and I'm at the middle school level, are how do we locate that information? How do we access that information? How do I evaluate the information, whether it's a credible source or whether it's an accurate source and a timely source? And then how do I use that information in the way I'm supposed to use it, giving reference to the people that created it? So we will do a lot of citation work. And middle school kind of gives you this beautiful amalgamation of things because we're moving out of that elementary mode where the students are trying to just locate a book or starting to locate resources under a very guided practice, and we're starting to foster independence. And for middle schoolers, independence is a scary and beautiful place. Scarier probably for their teachers than for them, because I find already at the middle school level that they're Google-lites. Don't worry, Miss Fraser, I can Google it. Stop! After I do, with my 6th graders, my initial introduction at the beginning of the year, I stop and I go very low tech. I pass out the half-index cards. And I just ask some very general questions to kind of pre-assess where these students are on the spectrum, because 3 different schools feed into me. And just like every librarian on the planet, the librarians feeding into me have very different, although the same, specialties. Things that they focused on or that their faculty felt was important before they reached my doors. So we ask, do you know why we cite sources? Do you know where we can go for information that helps that? Do you know how to use the catalog? Oh, stars. That's a really scary one, especially when a 12-year-old looks at you and goes, you push the button, but once they get in, they have no idea what they're doing. Now, some of them are masters, and very quickly what happens in my 6th grade class is some of them will say, I can handle this for you, and they will guide others. It's a really beautiful community that way. You don't know how to do this, you're new to this system, and you've never used our catalog before, let me show you. All right? So it's a really great thing. As they move through 8th grade, we're hoping that they may have gleaned something from me along the way, but they also have, as happens in all of our worlds, that no one ever told me that before. This is new to me. What are you talking about? And you go, I taught you this lesson. I know I taught you this lesson. So sometimes I do very obvious information literacy lessons. Some days we put websites on trial. Okay, so hydrogen dioxide. Let's ban it. And then, ooh, yeah, let's go on the website. Let's find out why we're banning it. It's water, folks. But if you're looking at that website and you don't have the lens through which to see it, then you get sucked in. So there's where we talk about credibility and evaluating our web sources. They are a really big fan of the Wikipedia. They think librarians, someone somewhere has said, we never use Wikipedia for anything. Oh, yeah, right. I know at lunch at least once a day I'm looking up when some actor's birthday was or what sequence the movies go in. We use it. Do we use it in our scholarly time? No. But somewhere that's become the forbidden zone. So we talk about when is this appropriate? When is this not appropriate? Sometimes you have to get information literacy into them by the back door so they don't know you're giving it to them. Because frequently what they say to me is they've seen librarians either now, unfortunately sometimes it's me, or in the past as the talking head. This is what you do, this is how you cite, you will use MLA 7 format, you will da-da-da, the colon goes here, and they are just as we would be. They're just like us, they're just smaller. So, for instance, the week of Halloween, storytelling used to be in my curriculum. Now that we're moving into the information literacy skills, it's not so obviously there. The teacher said, Ms. Frazier, we really need you to do North Carolina folktales. Please, 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 please. I said, oh, sure, but I have to have a time. So we did North Carolina folktales, but then we had to have primary sources, photographs, web explanations, birth certificates, proving whether the persons or events in the story really transpired or whether this was something beautiful to tell at the holiday. And then we stopped and said, now, think outside of what we just said. How does this apply? Some of them, the application skill, especially in your middle school level, is still developing. They will hear you, they can understand you, but how does it apply to something else takes them into that Bloom's taxonomy, all right? And Bloom's can be a scary place sometimes for them. So that's what we're doing, okay? As they move into high school, I'm starting to work with the high school librarians to look actually at the ACRL standards, because we're hearing there's a disconnect. My students have been using NCWise out, and the databases in there is 8th graders. The high school doesn't always see it, and I know when they reach the next level, using databases, some of them just get sent on a whirlwind. So that means we have some work to do down in the trenches from that K to 12 scope, seeing what happens. The other nice thing that happens in school libraries is we can frequently see the students that have been exposed to a strong public library program. When they can access and locate information quicker because they've had a greater length of exposure to it. So we know those students that were in the libraries before they reached our doors, and we can tell which students still are in the public libraries and supplementing what we can give them. You ready, Stacy?
I'm ready. So I deal with a slightly taller group. Although we do actually on my campus, I am at a community college, we have an early college high school. So we have students who are 14 up to 80. And so you talk about the lifespan, we've got a pretty wide range there that we're working with, and we have a mix. And it can be a beautiful thing to watch our mix, because we'll have classes where we have a 14-year-old high school freshman in a psychology class, introduction to psychology, with a person who is 50 or 60 who worked, in our area. I'm in Hickory, so in a furniture factory for X number of years before that factory moved, and now all of a sudden, what am I going to do? And they build those relationships. And for us, when we think about information literacy, we kind of couch it in terms of critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills it's a huge push on our campus, and it just aligns beautifully with information literacy. You have to understand that you need information. You have to understand how to get that information. You have to understand how to evaluate it. I actually use the water website also. I've used that with several of our college student success classes, and they're the same, even though, in theory, I'm working with adults. They're like, yes, we have to get rid of that. It causes cancer. Oh, wait. Let's, when you really dig into the website. And those skills, when I think about that, and I think about it across the lifespan, if you can learn those information literacy skills, you can learn when you need information, how to evaluate that information, what information is good and reliable or scholarly, versus what information is just something that Joe put on the web for you to go and click on. You can take that with you into life. You can use that when you leave us and transfer to a 4-year university. For our nursing students who are working on their associates in nursing, they can take that and go to the hospital and use the research skills that we've helped them attain. And I like to think that their research skills are a life and death could be a life or death situation, with making sure they understand what it means to think critically about their resources and really understand what they're going to do with the information they have. And it's one of those things that, for me, I really think that if we can work to create an informationally literate society, if we can really work to create a group of people who are critical thinkers, we're librarians to be, we're the gateholders to that. And so we have I know it's going to sound hokey, but we have the possibility here, we have it in our hands, the ability to change the world. Think about a world where everybody actually thinks about their source before they cite it, or they think about their decisions before they make them. And so that's what we try to do. We try to give them the tools to evaluate everything. Evaluate your evening news. Evaluate what I'm saying to you when I have you in my library instruction classroom. Really think about what you're faced with day in, day out. And so to me, it's just on our campus, like I said, we blend information literacy with critical thinking skills, and those are going to follow them across the lifespan. My 80-year-old grandmother needs to be informationally literate just as much as my 10-year-old daughter. They have different needs, but they both have information needs. So.
All right, well, I'm Jenny here at UNCG, and I'm the coordinator for first-year programs. So I spend a lot of my time working with 100-level classes, like English composition, intro to public speaking, the kind of classes you probably all had to take at some point in your life, and that I'm sure you remember fondly, as many of our students obviously do. We have, I want to really kind of call back to both Sarah and Stacy, because we have a lot of similar concerns and a lot of similar goals. Information literacy and critical thinking, I definitely agree, are tied together. I don't think you can think critically if you can't evaluate information, because we're constantly kind of bombarded with information in our lives all across the lifespan now. And so it's really important to have both of those skills working in concert. So we use the ACRL standards here at UNCG to help kind of guide our information literacy practice. We have a pretty solid information literacy program, particularly working with these first year classes. And we have campus support. We have an information literacy council on our campus, and that has, they've adopted a definition about information literacy. So here's our UNCG definition. To be information literate, a person must be, I'm still Jenny. To be information literate, a person must be able to determine what information is needed and why, locate appropriate